Hello, guys. So, welcome to another Filmmaking Times live with Tom and Lucas.
Hi, guys.
And today, as you'll notice, well, for those of you who've been watching the show before, you'll notice we have a new setting. That's because we're in a new place, just literally setting up, and that was the reason why we had slight delay with the start. But anyways, let's start the show. Like I said, we're delayed, so no point in waiting further. So today's show is all about why you don't need the latest camera or latest camera gadget, to be a successful filmmaker, I guess, or or an artist, right?
Right. We spent so much time talking about gear and about getting into the details of every camera and so on that we felt like we need to kind of balance it out and remind you, just talk about the importance actually of the skills, right?
Yeah, because you can get very easily lost in the whole gear acquisition, right? I mean, it's exciting. I guess not for everybody, but somebody like me, I love the technical aspect of filmmaking too. So I love playing around with new cameras, new lenses, accessories like gimbals, all that stuff. But at the same time, you can get so lost in it, both time-wise, but also I think financially, that you lose the sight of really, what is it that you're trying to accomplish, right?
Right.
So, yeah. So I know that, like, for me, I think you were like kind of like this anchor that would hold me back sometimes from going and doing, going overboard basically with the equipment, right? Because I remember like when we were starting our company and we'd be investing in gear. There would sometimes basically I would make money and I was always justifying it like, okay, I need to reinvest in our company. I need to get this new camera, get this new whatever, right, gimbal, tripod. And I remember you being the more looking, I guess, more from the accounting side, right? That is your background. So you were looking at it going, no, it doesn't make sense. Don't start buying the stuff. And in a way, it was a good thing because it kind of, over the years of us working together, I got into this habit now of, okay, if, like I said, some cases, we review some gear and stuff like that. Some of the gear we just get for free. As loaners, but when it comes to gear that we invest in ourselves, I think we're pretty careful right now with deciding like, okay, is it worth spending X amount of money on this gear in the long run? What is the payoff worthwhile and all that stuff? Because I guess for me, the way I look at it is, if you're not careful with that, you could end up drowning in whether it's you're buying it on credit or whatever it is, business loans, but you can end up drowning in basically financially with your company, with your business, and get to a point where you're no longer doing things because you feel like you need to, you want to do something, something you feel passionate about, but because you need to do these jobs and take on pretty much any job you can to pay off these bills, these credit card bills and whatever, to pay off the gear that you invested in, because you told yourself that you're going to be a better artist if you invest in that gear, right?
I mean, like many years ago, we had the discussions when the red camera, the first one came out, and whether we're thinking about whether to invest the money and so on. But one thing that we've stayed away always, is we never wanted to compete. Like when it comes to getting projects, and we never wanted to compete based on camera and the gear we have, right? Like that was the reason people were. If people were just deciding, okay, I'm going to go with Tom Antos or somebody else because of the camera, then that's a really bad position to be in, because then you just always will have to have the latest camera and so on, right? So you never want to do that. So you want to make sure people just hire you because of your skills, right, and of your track record of the work you've done in the past. And so that's why we've always focused on that rather than investing in the latest and greatest. Now, having said that, sometimes a camera will come out that really really opens things up, and sometimes it makes perfect sense to.
But I would say usually those are not the best, like the best cameras that you're looking at, or the best lenses or whatever. Those are usually going to be priced premium, and it's part of it is because the manufacturers know that most filmmakers are never going to bother buying it. They're just going to rent it. So if you want to become an artist, I would say don't worry about owning all this gear. Just like I said, rent it per project. Because if you end up buying it and investing, like I see some people out there buy cameras, that are, I would say personally for myself, I really don't think I'm ever going to go into a camera that's like over $20,000. I think that's kind of insane. Especially with the way, how fast technology kind of moves around these days. But one of the big reasons is also because once you make that kind of an investment in a piece of gear, you're pretty much going to be, your priority is going to be then getting that camera used, and basically getting it out on as many jobs as possible. And so you might even just end up becoming more of a rental house than an artist. And like Lucas said, you don't want to be hired because of a certain piece of gear that you have. You want to be hired because of who you are and your skills that you bring to a project. One way that I did it at the beginning is, it was a little bit hard, but like I would, like as an example, we had a production company. We're doing now not so much, but back in the day we did a lot of music videos. And when we're doing music videos, we would have a client call us and ask us right away, details about what we can deliver and things like that. And now many of the clients, not all of them, but many, would be asking, okay, so if I do this video for this much with you guys, what camera are you going to shoot it on? And I think it's part of it was because a lot of those clients would, they see somebody else that did a music video that they liked, and they found out like, oh, they shot it with so-and-so camera. And so they would come to me like with those kind of questions. And I would usually try to get them away from that, like not even thinking about what camera. Because it didn't really matter. I could get any camera because at the end of the day, I was just going to charge them whatever it cost to rent that camera. Because I didn't have any cameras really. I mean, we had cameras, but we had cameras that were like for our own personal projects, for our own experimentation, that kind of stuff. But otherwise, we did not have, like these really big, expensive cameras. We, like the number one camera I think was the Sony NEX, right, camera. I remember when we got that one. Before that we used like the Sony, like the Canon DSLRs, like 5D, 7D, and then I remember I got the Sony one. I really liked that one, and I liked it because it was so tiny. And it delivered really nice quality. It had 60 frames per second, slow motion and full HD. So like because of those things, I really liked that camera, and I actually did a bunch of reviews on that. And so I would do a lot of tests with that camera, right? I would shoot with that camera and all that stuff. Now, obviously, for certain jobs, if the client really wanted to go big and stuff, and it was funny because I'll tell you guys, a lot of times it wasn't even because of the quality, because the clients themselves, like I would show them sometimes tests done on red camera and shot on the Sony NEX. And they couldn't tell them apart, because there are a lot of the people or your clients that are going to approach you are not people who are tech savvy. They don't know all the latest, details. They just kind of look at the overall image. Okay, it's this, nice shot, nice location, nice lighting, all that stuff. So they would look at it and they couldn't tell apart which camera was which. But still, at the end of the day, they would say, well, I'm bringing this big artist, to be in this music video or so and so. I need the camera to look impressive. Literally what they were saying is I want something that looks like a big professional camera, not this tiny little, Sony NEX camera, which you can build it out, but still to a point, right? So sometimes they literally would pay more money just because they want to have a big camera, camera rig.
So the trick, so that sometimes you have to play the game, I guess, put up a show with the trick is using mud boxes and stuff like that.
And sometimes that's what you do, right? Like let's say if the client says, I want this big camera, I want that thing, but they don't have the budget for that. Well, then use your little DSLR, point and shoot, whatever, DSLM.
Just dress it up.
Just dress it up, make it look bigger, which we've done too. Now, in other cases where they do have the money, just charge them. Charge them for the rental and don't go yourself, because what's going to happen is you might have one job where, yes, you're going to, if you have to rent, let's say, the Red Epic, Red Weapon, whatever it is, the latest thing. You're going to use that camera. But then let's say the next job, somebody comes in and has half the budget. And really, they're just like, okay, they trust in you. And, and I had cases like that where they would still sometimes push, okay, I want this camera. And I would be like, honestly, don't worry about it. I'm going to make the video look good. So don't worry about it. This is the budget that you have. That you can't afford that camera. But it's still going to look good. You just have to trust me with that. And, sometimes it happened that the clients walked away. They were like, no, because I only have this much money, but I want the latest camera. But in other cases, if I managed to convince the client where they were like, okay, I'll go with what you say, and then we shot the video, and they were happy, right? So
right. No, I mean, one of the things you do, one of the services you provide as a production company is actually your knowledge, your experience of how to spend that budget, which is usually, I mean, there's always some limits on the budget, to make the final product as good as possible. So you'll hear from, I'm sure you guys have heard from clients many things saying, we should do this, that, and that's when the value of your experience comes in, where you'll say, well, we can do it like this and get more of an effect and let's not do that maybe because it's like, well, I don't know, 2 second one shot, and it's going to cost us a lot of money, and at the end, people will not really appreciate it. So
with locations, that's a big thing, right? Like usually when you're switching locations, especially on music videos, because there's so tight deadlines, like 1 or 2 day shoots usually. So if you want to get good production value, then you want to be able to spend more time on each shot, make those shots look really, really make them look money, right? Make them look like there was a big budget behind them. By putting in a lot of crazy, like a lot of locations, special locations that are far apart, you're just wasting money basically right there, because even like I said, money that you didn't have, but money that you could have put on screen to make it look like your music video is that much bigger. Because instead of spending that time setting up a really nice looking shot, you have to get the shots quickly, pack up all the gear, go to the next location, and stuff like that. So a lot of times what we did is we would tell our clients, like, let's pick one location, make the story of the video simpler, but let's make sure that one location is really kick-ass, and then spend our time there.
And let's make the performance shots really good, right?
Exactly, yeah. And when we did that, and like I said, again, sometimes you just have to sweet talk your clients, and you have to be creative on how you do it. But eventually, like I said, if you got them on your side and you got them believing in you, then at the end of the day, we were able to always deliver a better product that way. And then at the end of the day, like I said, the end product is what speaks, for everything. I mean, you could be a complete, like an unpleasant person to work with, or you could be, the most fun guy. It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, if your product is good or isn't good, that's going to really determine if that person wants to work with you again. And that's how we've developed some relationships with some people, especially in the music video kind of industry, where we had people repeatedly coming back to us because they liked, basically at the end of the day, they liked the product that we delivered, regardless of the budget, right? And like I said, sometimes, if you don't have a big budget, let's say 1 day of shooting, you can't afford a big camera. Yes, just use, a Sony NEX, like the one that we've used. We actually have I actually shot some music videos on it. One is this music video here in Toronto, and this one is actually all except this aerial shot that you're seeing up here. But otherwise, all of this stuff here is shot on the Sony NEX camera, and it's it's a music video that I'm really proud of, and the reason is because I think it looks much more expensive than you think it is, right?
And the artists were very happy too, so I get to say that. So
yeah. So that's at the end of the day, it's that's, like I said, that's what counts. And also because we were actually working with a smaller camera on this video, we were able to jump around really quickly, and we actually had, was it like 3 locations. It was a 1-day shoot on this video, and we had 3 locations. One was like at the, in Toronto by the lakeshore, then one downtown Toronto, and then in the last, basically second half of the day was all inside this house. But we were able to move around also quicker, and especially like the stuff here that we're shooting, downtown with all these people and everything, we had no permits. It's not like we showed up there and we were like, oh yeah, this is gonna, we have the full control of the street. No. So we went in the middle of the day, pretty much it was like lunch hour, when everybody was coming out of their offices, and we just shot these, got these shots without any permits, and we had no problems with police or anybody really getting in our way, because we didn't have this huge setup. We just had the small little camera, which is the Sony NEX i5R in that case. It's a tiny little camera, and I still think it's a great camera. If you can find it, it's not really, it's not being made by Sony anymore. And if you can have spent more money, I would say just go for like the Sony A6000, 6300, those cameras. But if you really can't afford it, anything else, then you look around on eBay, because you can probably find that camera for probably like, if you're lucky, $150, maybe $250, somewhere in that range, you'll find it on eBay. It's going to be used, obviously, but you'll find it. So as you can see, we're able to get all these shots because we were working with a small camera, and so in many cases, that's what made our music video look that much more bigger, that much more expensive, is because we spend the time on those nice locations. We don't have to, spend too much time, let's say, even setting up these big rigs and big cameras and that stuff. Like all the shots that were the cameras moving, that was all done with a little handheld, Steadicam, right? Very quick, very, very fast, and like I said, it's just that's what I would say is there's a big advantage of working with smaller cameras. And like I said, is if you're gonna do these jobs, let's say jobs that can't afford to rent these big cameras, you'll actually get, I would say, more proficient, more just be able to work faster with a lot of the stuff. Because you're, like I said, you have to, right? You're going to be working with a smaller team, but then the smaller camera will allow you to do that, right? Move around faster, like I said, go to locations without permits because you don't have this big rig anymore. Do all those cool things, and then trust me, guys, you do not need to have, like I would say, hands-on experience with the latest gear. You really don't, because if you've experimented enough and let's say you've worked with, like in my case. Let's say I experimented a little bit with this camera, a little bit with that camera. Back in the day, I had experience shooting on the film, but that was a completely different world. So, I wouldn't even say that it added to my experience overall in terms of using digital cameras. Well, certain things did, certain skills translate, but not all of them. But what would happen then is, like, let's say every so on, then, like I said, we would do a good job on a video, even though it was low budget, shot it on a simple camera. The video did really well. Then we had that same client or another client that saw our work come in and be like, okay, we want you to do a video for us. And they would bring a bigger budget. And if they had a bigger budget that afforded us to rent, like a nicer, bigger camera and also get a bigger crew, because with a bigger camera, you need a bigger crew because you're not going to be able to move around as fast yourself and all that stuff. So once we got to that point, trust me, it's very simple and very easy to jump in from a small little, in that case, let's say the Sony NEX or Canon 5D, to like a big camera, because a lot of the things are the same. And usually if you're going to rent a camera, you're usually going to rent it like a day before you pick it up, or sometimes even 2 days. So you'll have the camera for, like, to kind of do your initial tests, figure out all the settings, the menus, where they are. But I mean, once you know how to set up good shots, that pretty much means that you know what angles to get, your lens choices, what camera movement, that kind of stuff, and then the basics of shutter speed or shutter angle, aperture settings, ISO settings, white balance, that kind of stuff. If you know those basics, and you're gonna learn them actually better by just owning a cheap little camera and doing jobs on that, then I think once you pick up the big boys, you're gonna have no problem. Like I said, spend like just 1 day and just play around with it, play with the menus, and you're like, okay, and you're gonna be ready. I mean, I remember first time I worked with the red camera, which was the red one. That's literally how it was. I got the camera a day before we were shooting, but very quickly I realized, oh, okay, this is the same thing as on this camera. This is the same as on that camera, and vice versa. Auray Alexa, when I had a chance to use it, the same thing. It's all the same stuff, literally, guys. So there's no point in you, like I said, making such a big investment, because once again, the key thing is you do not want to be financially bogged down and have this financial obligation of paying off this huge, camera or all these just expensive equipment, regardless. Maybe it's a really expensive gimbal or a drone or whatever. If you can't afford to pay for it right now, I would say, especially when you're starting out as a filmmaker, don't buy it. Because it's the worst thing you can do. Is it's kind of like putting yourself like in chains, putting yourself in prison of debt, where you go in there and you have to then worry about paying off that debt instead of worrying about actually, hey, I want to do this cool project, right? And sometimes because we didn't have these big financial obligations, sometimes it allowed us to even work with people who, like we had people who, approached us, whether it's music videos or films, who had really good ideas, right? And we were like, wow, this is going to be a really cool project, but they just didn't have the money. But guess what? Because we didn't, if you make your bare minimum, we were able to, like I said, pay our bills, and just like I said, we didn't go extravagant. We didn't spend money on crazy things. We didn't have to worry about, like, oh well, I can't do this job because I need to pay these bills, so I'm sorry, I can't work with you. It was like, okay, we did a few jobs in a month, paid off our bills, and then we knew, let's say we had like a week off and somebody came in that didn't have the money and we really wanted to work with that person, then we just did it, right? We did it sometimes for no money or for very little money, and it paid off. Not always, but sometimes it pays off, because then that person that approaches you, maybe that again is not in a financial situation at that moment, but they're really talented, they sometimes blow up. And when they blow up and they get big, then guess what? They're gonna call you because you were the first person that worked with and they enjoyed working with, and then you provided a good result for them, and they're gonna call you up and be like, hey, I want to work with you again. Now I have money, So that's kind of how things work, and that's how you build relationships. That's what I would say is, not having those financial obligations is key. So that's why when people send me all these messages and they're like, Tom, do I need to get the DJI Ronin and do I need to get this, you know, this crane, and do I need to get this gimbal or this drone or this you know, Ursa Mini or whatever, but I can't afford it. You know, and I tell them, no, you don't have to. You don't have to get any of that stuff. Literally, like, to start as a filmmaker, you don't even need to have a camera, because there's places out there where you can actually, online communities where you can connect with people, and there's people out there who have cameras, you know, Canon 5D or whatever other camera that they bought, and, you know, they're great cameras, and you can meet up with these filmmakers and collaborate. Now, obviously, it's going to be easiest if you have the camera at your own disposal. So I would say, if you can save up, you know, don't buy the latest iPhone or whatever, save up some money and buy, you know, like I said, used Sony NEX camera, and, you know, you can get shots like these, like I said, where, you know, if you do a job like this and you show those kind of shots as your examples, trust me, you know, the clients are going to be happy. They're going to call you back. You know, they're going to be excited to work with you again, regardless, like I said, whether, you know, their budget changes or not. But if it changes and the budget actually increases, then they're going to be that much more excited, because if they saw what you were able to do with such a small budget, then you know, they're going to be that much more excited and anxious to see what you can do with a bigger budget. So so that's why I would say, you know, that's the main reason I would say for me, right? Why I wouldn't. Yeah.
Well, and actually, I was thinking about, you know, like big time EDPs and filmmakers, when they go for more expensive gear, that, and, you know, they don't buy that gear, they rent it. But it's actually what they pay for. Interesting enough, it's not usually better quality in terms of the image quality. They're paying for camera gear that's just easier to work with, like, you know, and more durable.
Some cases might be, you know, with a bigger, larger camera, it might be worse to work with. But yeah, I think I know what you mean. Is like, you mean in post, right? Like, you have, you know, higher bitrate images, or you're shooting raw, right?
Right.
You have things like that, those options. But those
I mean,
are minimal differences
look
in the final product.
Okay, so compare like Auray, you know, those Auray, you know, film cameras, right? And to Ursa Mini, right? 4.6. In terms of the image quality, is there a big difference? Because there's a huge difference in price.
Yeah. I mean, it's there's a difference. Obviously, every camera is gonna have a difference, right? Yeah. There's a different aesthetic that each camera have, and you might say, I like this one better. I might like that one. But when you're looking at like the capabilities that camera gives you, no. I mean, in many cases, actually, the Aries, you know, they're not really good with slow motion and things like that. Their raw workflow is way slower than, for example, Red or even now Ursa. You know, Ursa cameras have the compressed RAW, or you can record directly to ProRes and things like that are with a lot more flavors and stuff. So it's in that sense, yeah, it might be actually, like I said, it might actually be slower. But for example, what the Auray has, and that's the reason why a lot of people, you know, think is, aside from having this whole, I would say, kind of universe of Auray products, right? Auray basically standards that they kind of created, and the, you know, old film lenses or film accessories that you can put on the new digital Auray cameras. Aside from that, they offer a really great dynamic range. You know, now it's questionable. Some people saying other cameras are matching them, but, you know, people who are like hardcore Auray fans are going to say, you know, it has the best, you know, image latitude, right? The best dynamic range. But that's that's, you know, when it comes to that.
I mean,
but in other terms, other cameras might be better, right? Might be better. Might have colors that, like, some people swear by, you know, the Canon C-line cameras. They say they have nicer colors, like really just skin tones and everything. They prefer them more. So it really, a lot of times it now comes down to preference, right?
Yeah, I mean, like, for example, this just even Sony mirrorless cameras. They, you know, the A6500 or, you know, their full frame cameras, they give you really good, well, especially with the A6500, 6300, they give you really good image quality.
Oh, it's amazing image quality.
And for the money, it's amazing deal. Now, when it comes short, it's actually like usability, you know, overheating, the menus, like the body, maybe it's too small.
Sometimes,
stuff like
can't
that.
Support
it's
big
not really
lenses.
The image quality, so you can, you know, that's why I'm saying many times people would they pay extra for it. It's not really that the image is going to be much better. It's just like other factors which are important. But it's not like if you.
But I would say those are like the things. Those are like the luxuries. It's kind of like, you know, if you're a filmmaker and you're working in big budget films, music videos, well, you're not coming out of your own pocket. Trust me. None of those filmmakers that you see that make big budget films and music videos, they don't. You know, they might own some nice cameras because they might make nice salaries, but they don't use their gear. Everything's rental. And so you have this luxury of having all this stuff. So it's sort of like, well, I don't really care. It's not my money I'm spending. It's within the budget. So, okay, so we can get this camera. Let's get this camera. We can get these expensive lenses. Let's get them. And they'll just use them. But it's not because, oh, it's the best or it's the easiest to work with. It's just sort of like they have this, like I said, this kind of a whole world of accessories and things like that and standards that I work with. Whereas, like you said, working with Sony A6500, great little camera, but, to attach, other accessories, follow focus to it, all that stuff, you have to then build up. You have to attach a cage. You have to do all these things. And sometimes it's a lot of like creative thinking, like, okay, well, how can I attach this accessory to this camera that's not meant to have that, in there. And that's why I think, so like, when it comes to, that's really what it is. It's those little differences. And when it comes to quality, most of like modern cameras, whether it's like GH5, A6500, Sony A7S II, Ursa, Mini Pro or 4.6K, all those cameras, they're going to be different because they're just different manufacturers, different sensors, but the quality is very, very close. So it's not like you're going, oh, because you're getting this camera, the quality is that much higher. It's sometimes might even be lower in this aspect, but higher there. It just really comes down to preference, but also comes down, a lot of it is kind of this prestige, and it's kind of a brand name. I mean, Arri is, it's solid. The camera is not going to overheat. Like when you think of Arri, because they've been in the film industry for so long and they're reliable, have reliable film equipment, whether it's their cameras or lights or, whatever it is that they produce, that you can trust an Arri, that it's not going to break down on you, in the middle of a shoot. And that's kind of what you're paying, all this money for. Plus, like I said, you're paying for that name. Because okay, like we're discussing, it's not always even sometimes it might be disadvantages, but it's kind of like the same idea of like Nike shoes. Some people only will wear Nikes, whereas other people are like, I don't care, I'm not going to pay premium, I'll just wear any other sneakers, and I can play basketball or run just as well as I can as the person who owns Nike. So it really, that's kind of what it comes down to.
There was actually, I think, 72 or 76. There was a marathon runner from Czech Republic, and he won the gold medal, and he ran in army boots.
Oh, see, like the Czech army boots?
And they were not Nike army boots.
No, oh yeah, they're
from Czechoslovakia, I should say.
Czechoslovakia at that time. So the communists, right? And they weren't. Communists didn't make the best.
So no excuses, guys. Even
yeah.
Well, maybe nowadays maybe wouldn't pull it off, but
no, but it just shows you that anything is possible, literally, right? If you're creative with what you have, and you're gonna have a lot more freedom and stuff if you don't tie yourself down, financially. So I don't know if there's any questions people have.
We have a lot of questions, comments, but do we want to take some questions and go, because we have a second video you want to show?
Yeah, I mean, and
then we have a lot of cool submissions to
okay.
share. But
so I'll get into that, but let's just answer questions about regarding to this. There's another video actually I'll show you guys. This one was shot for Anna Sizen. And this one, except these shots here in the dark, like this stuff here, which is in this bright room, in this kitchen, that was all shot on the Sony NEX 5R. And in this case, you see like this kind of cool look I got with those softer edges. That was actually because of the lenses I was using. I was using the, I forgot the name now. the Lens Baby lenses, that's what it is. You see you have those edges kind of blurry, kind of like spot focus lenses. But as you can see, I'm cutting between this and then the other camera was the Canon 7D, like the stuff that was shot at night. And literally the main reason why I switched is because my batteries for the Sony NEX died, and at the end of the day we're shooting this stuff here with that dark setting there. And so these dark scenes here were, like I said, just because of that, was shot with the Canon 7D. But otherwise I would have just kept on shooting with the Sony NEX 5R. And as you can see, the two cameras also cut well together if you color grade them. And I think the footage, I mean, the quality, speaks for itself. It's the music video did well. It premiered on television in Poland. And the artist was really happy with it. We actually ended up working with Anna on many more videos. There's actually 2 more videos that I've going to be coming out that I shot for Anna actually almost a year ago now, or over a year ago now.
Sorry?
For Anna Sizen.
This video?
No, we shot these videos for her, and we just...
It's 2 years ago.
No, I'm saying we shot other videos for her that we never finished editing, so
yeah.
I gotta actually get back to it. But anyways, getting back to, as you guys can see, the quality, this music video, like the people watching the final product would not know what camera this was shot on, and probably wouldn't care because the video works and basically shows the music and kind of the ideas that the singer had, that wanted to portray. So because of that, as you can see, it's if you can do some really cool stuff with any camera, and you see all this slow motion stuff where she's knocking things off the table, that is all done on the Sony NEX 5R because you can do that 60 frames per second at 1080p, and it looks really nice. So that's the reason why. So yeah, I mean, it's like I said, it's you can definitely do a lot of cool things with the simple, really old gear. Like, if you like this work that I'm just showing you guys right now, I mean, like I said, those cameras are like, I don't know, how old is Sony NEX 5R now? Is it like
that's good. Well, this video
7 years old?
Yeah,
something like that. So really old camera, and like I said, you might even just have problems finding it online, but you can find other cheap cameras under $500. But this one, like I said, $150 I've seen it on eBay. And I would say grab that camera. It's funny actually because my camera, I had a relative of mine, just looking for a camera that want to go point and shoot, do some videos, do some photos. And they saw the camera lying in my studio, and they were like, "Oh, you're not using this. It's kind of dusty. Can I just take it? I was like, no. I want that camera." And it's like, "Well, why you're not using it?" I'm like, "Because it's still a great camera." And there's many cases where I will sometimes, like if I'm traveling or some things like that, and I don't want to take a big camera, I'll take that little camera because it delivers great 1080p video. And so literally, even though my relative was like offering me money in the end, it's like, "I'll pay you, trust me, I'll pay you. What is the thing? I like this camera." I'm like, "No, I'm not selling it. Look online for it." And he did end up finding it online, so for, like I said, $150 on eBay. So
there was a question, which was our first company camera, and I guess, I think there was a camera before that, but I think Canon 7D was really the camera that really did a lot
when it comes to digital stuff.
Work.
Yeah, I guess, yeah. Because we did
Canon 7D, the first generation. Also, it came out really. I mean, people got excited. We got excited because it opened up doors,
But remember the first camera, to be like as far as our company, because I worked with other cameras before that, but it was working for the other companies. But when we started our company, we started mainly to do films,
right?
And we were planning right away to do this feature film, World War II.
Which we did.
Yeah, we did. So you guys can actually watch it. It's on I think on Amazon, right, on demand, or Amazon Prime if you can watch it. It's called Under Black Skies, old film done super
shot
low
in
budget.
2002. That was on a film camera, 16 millimeters. We just caught the end of when people were still using
film. Yeah.
I mean, we were already using a digital camera, but still for a feature film, the quality was not there.
Yeah.
We were kind of thought about it a little bit because people were experimenting with adapters for those, because it was what camera was it? Canon, and with a mini DV tape. Which one?
Oh yeah, the Canon XL1. That was like this big camera that was thing, but it was not the quality. It was still SD quality, it wasn't HD. And actually no, I think it might have been HD, but it wasn't like full HD. I don't remember now correctly. Or no, I think it was SD. Yeah, it was SD, but it just had a bigger sensor and thing.
Yeah.
Anyways, didn't much film, so we decided to shoot our feature film on film. And but we were self-financed, so we had to go the indie route. So we ended up getting a camera from the 1960s, which is the Auray SR1, I think it was. Super 16 it was, but we actually shot it. No, actually, I don't even think that one was a Super 16 version. And it literally had like this crystal controlled motor, so that you could more or less get accurate frame rates, but sometimes it would go a little bit higher. It would shoot 25 frames per second, then 23, then 24. It wouldn't, because it was an old motor. Actually, the motor died in the middle of our film shoot because it was so hot. The motor overheated, died. We had like 2 or 3 days no filming, and we had to order another one, right, for the camera. We shot it on, like I said, on 60 millimeter film. That was the first camera, and it was a big investment because at that time that camera, it still cost, it was like $3,000 or $4,000, right? I remember.
Oh, the Canon camera, but the Canon camera you bought was actually more expensive.
Oh yeah,
$5,000.
That Canon, just regular video camera, that was $6,000.
$6,000.
Yeah, whereas the film cameras, you can buy film cameras now for pretty damn cheap. It's the film that's going to cost you a lot. But yeah, we spent a lot of money. So that was our first camera, and then we shot that, and then I think we did some. And of course,
the lab was the big bill from the lab after for the feature film.
Film processing, yeah. So. But we ended up, selling that camera because, like I said, it didn't make sense for us to keep it. And then after that, that's kind of how we operated. Was we would buy a camera that we thought was really going to be like our main workhorse. We'd use it for like these low-budget projects where client can't afford to rent stuff. But because of that, we knew that we also didn't want to spend, $10,000 or $20,000 on a camera because we would have to be paying off monthly. So it had to be a camera that we knew we could pay for in cash at that moment.
Now with the Canon 7D, I mean, we got it right when it came out, right?
Yeah.
But we kept it for a long, long time. Even like the the short.
I mean, we
film,
still have the camera.
I know the big Wild North. We shot it
Yeah.
with a Canon 7D. So
Yeah,
and that
almost-
film we came out 2-3 years ago,
Yeah.
and we shot it I think 3 years ago now, and we still shot it on the Canon 7D. And by that time, I think that second Mark II of that camera was out, and or it was almost not much longer after that. I mean, there were other cameras, better cameras out there, from Canon, from Sony, from Kwasnik, and we still
Exactly. Like technology was changing, but we didn't see an incentive for us to upgrade. We were like, no, it's a great camera for what we need for these jobs where people have no money, literally.
Or our own projects. Right?
Yeah, or our own projects, exactly. Or when we had clients approach us who were like, hey, we only have this much money, can you do something with it? And be like, yeah, because we had that camera. But like I was saying before, when we had bigger clients come in with more money, then we would just rent a bigger, better camera or the latest thing that came out. But that's why, see, again, it didn't make sense for us, and I would say as a good advice, don't buy the latest thing. Unless you can afford to pay for it. But if you're putting it on a credit card, forget about it. It's the worst advice I would say that I think, because at the end of the day, what you want to be known for is you want to be known for the skills that you bring. And that's kind of how we would sell ourselves. Is people would come and be like I said, if they were just obsessed with like, can you guys shoot on this camera, or can you guys shoot a music video for me, or this project, whatever, on that camera. And if that's all they were obsessed in, sometimes we would actually turn down the jobs and be like, well, I'm sorry, like we're not going to do it for that. Where we did take people is where people were like, basically clients who were coming into us because they saw, let's say, something that we already did, or they just trusted us. They trusted our vision, our pitch that we did. And they were like, okay, I like your ideas. And they didn't care how we did it. They just like, deliver the ideas that you promised and deliver them well. And I think what the good thing about that was that over years, as I was doing that kind of work, especially me as a DP, I became known for not, here's Tom, Tom Antos, he's the guy who owns the Red Epic or whatever. No, people didn't know what camera I owned. As far as they knew, actually, many people they thought I owned 0 cameras. What they hired me for is, Tom Antos, he does really cool, this kind of music video style, or he does cool stuff with special effects. That kind of thing. That's what I was known for my skill set. And I would say that's what you guys should try to sell yourself on, because sometimes that means turning down jobs, but if you do it consistently and you stick to it, you're going to get clients that you want to work with, because those are going to be clients who are going to be admiring your skills versus the gear that you own. Because if that's all they care about, then trust me, they can drop you like this, because if your camera suddenly becomes a little bit old, they're going to go to the next guy that owns the latest newest camera. And if you can't afford to fork out the money and spend on the newest the greatest deal, then you're not going to be picked for the newest job. And also you're just going to be, like I said, you're going to financially you're going to have difficulties and stuff like that. Whereas because we didn't have to spend big bucks on all these latest camera gadgets, we end up doing pretty well, right, ourselves, right? So yeah, so that's the that's the advice. Anyways, any other questions?
Yeah. So we'll also, guys, we'll get to your submissions. There are some cool submissions, but okay. So here's a filmmaker, and he's got he's amateur. He says he's an amateur. He's doing amateur short films, and he's asking whether the Canon 1300D is it good enough. It's so I'm not very familiar with that the naming in Europe and other countries. In North America, it's just T6. So the
That's
Canon,
what it is.
Canon T6. It's one of the smaller DSLRs that Canon sells. Is it good enough?
I mean, the question, good enough for what? I would say for majority of work, yes.
I mean, the video quality is the same as the Canon 7D, the first generation that we had. It's like you're getting 1080p, right?
Nice 1080p video.
And so it's the same. So I mean, again, like you're not going to. I mean, it's no reason for you not to make good work, right?
You can, exactly. If you have, it's not so much about the camera at this point, because all these cameras can deliver this stuff. It's about the shots that you compose. So like, if you have nice looking shots, like here I'll cut back again to, showing here, like you see something interesting. The lighting's interesting, nice location, the costumes, like all these things make a big difference. You have all these things, that's how, in the end, that's gonna make your work stand out, and people won't even care what camera you shot it in. Like you see again, interesting lighting, interesting angles, locations, all that stuff. Nice color grading. Color grading makes a big difference because all these different cameras are gonna have what we call the typical video look, right? That just simply means they might be really good, sharp images, but sometimes you don't want them to be so sharp, or sometimes you don't want the colors to be very natural looking. So in this case, you'll notice I have added this kind of a blue kind of a tint to the shadows, kind of a more kind of yellowish kind of in the highlights, like that kind of stuff. That's the colors I went for in this music video, which looks not very natural, but looks stylized, and that's what gives it that kind of a film look. So those are the things that you want to kind of, I would say, pay attention more, is production design, the location you're in. Like today we don't have the most interesting location because, like I said, we just moved in here, but we're, eventually over time I want to also even make this so this show looks more interesting, put some cool things there in the background, work on the lighting, like things like that. Because all those things are going to make a big difference. And then, like, as a test, I will tell you guys, and I've actually done this. We've done already a few videos, like even the first video I ever put out on YouTube, which is the whole shot design, right?
Right.
If you guys look at it, it's the same shot I show you how I did with the red camera, and then I shot it with this, basically, I think it was the Canon XL1 video camera. And you see at the end of the day, there's almost no difference between the two cameras. And why? Because the shot itself was designed and it was interesting enough. So once you have an interesting composition, interesting shot, as a test, just swap out and put different cameras, and you're going to see that. Is there a difference? Yes, there's always going to be a difference because one camera has a little sharper, or one camera handles highlights differently, one camera handles skin tones differently. So that there's always differences, but it's not a question of what is one better or worse. It's just they're different.
Right. Okay, let's go to the next question. What camera it's from Raider Vision Productions. What camera do you think I can use for all-around camera, such as shooting short films, music videos, documentary? And he's thinking about the GH5 or the Canon C100 Mark II. And he says right now he owns the Canon 60D, and should he upgrade? So all-around camera, and he's got Canon 60D, which is again, yeah, I mean, it really depends if you see that if you, I mean, you
like, are you asking for the, I guess, the latest camera? Because if you don't care, like I said, like whether it's this old camera that we're using, if you don't care about having the latest, the 4K and stuff, you just want good, obviously I would say at least 1080p video, then 60D is great, right? It's a C100, I mean, it's a great camera too, but it is more pricey. So
it really depends what kind of projects you do in terms of, like your clients. If you can make it work for your clients, where you spend this money and you can still not price yourself out so people can afford, because on weddings, do you mention here weddings? No, you don't mention weddings videos, but so it depends, like, are you doing passion projects, or are you doing, and does your business support really? I mean, it's hard. I mean, those are things that we debate and
yeah, there's always, you look at it and you go, well, should we spend this money and stuff? But I would say when you're starting out, the best thing is don't go into debt. Spend money on what you can afford, right?
Yeah, I guess also, how long have you had this Canon 60D? Because it's like, if you have, I'm assuming you had it for a while since it's an older camera, but so if you've had it for a while and you know pretty much everything about this camera, and you've developed your skills, then yeah, I mean, financially you can afford it, then go get the better camera, sure. Yeah. But I mean, don't buy a camera so you can develop your skills. Like, you have the camera on which you can, you can learn everything, right? So so it depends. Then I guess, yeah, your business supports it. Get a better camera, sure, makes sense, right?
Yeah. What's the next question?
Okay.
You were saying something about, like, also about the whole idea of, like, jumping. Like I said, don't worry about having a professional cinema camera. Get, Sony NEX 5R if you can find it. Get Sony A6500 or Sony, 6000, for example, whatever it is. Canon, for example, Panasonic GH4, amazing camera. We're still using it, and it's, it's on discount now. Like, get those, slightly older cameras. You're gonna save yourself a lot of money. You can do great work. And if you get good with that camera, you can always jump, because, like you're saying, was it Roger Deakins or somebody who was also
Oh,
he has a preference, right? That way
well, Roger, Dickens, he loves shooting on digital, right? I mean, he started with film, of course, when he started his career many years ago. But
and what, like, for people who don't know, maybe like who is he? Like, he shot some notable.
Well, Sicario was like latest,
Yeah.
but I would have to so many films.
Like, he works on big budget films.
Yeah. So anyway, Coen Brothers approached him to do Hail Caesar, big budget movie, right? But Coen Brothers are really into using film. They didn't want to do digital, right? And then they approached this DP who's known for digital work. But he told them, like, yeah, if you want me to shoot on film, I'll shoot on a film. If you want me to shoot on an iPhone, I'll shoot it on an iPhone. So it doesn't really matter. Like, it's just different tool.
I'll make it work.
Let's just talk about what kind of a look, what you're going for, right? And that's where I guess your expertise always comes in. Like, for your clients also, your clients to tell you, this is kind of what I want, the final effect, and then you explain it to them. Well, this is how you achieve it. Especially this budget. Now with Coen Brothers, they get whatever they want to get in terms of since costs are not a concern. So yeah, Roger Dickens, obviously, once again did great, amazing job on that movie, and he shot it on film. Wasn't a problem for him.
Even though it wasn't even his preference, and he doesn't have like he so it wasn't even a question of money, definitely, or it wasn't a question of thing. It was just he kind of got pushed into it by the directors, but he was like, okay, I'll make it work. So
he didn't get pushed. He just was a preference of the.
Well, that's what I mean. Yeah. So. Yeah. Another question.
Okay. Here from Amrit Sandul. He does basic home corporate shoots and has the Canon 5D Mark III. What camera should he get next? So again, it's difficult to know without knowing you're saying basic corporate videos. Then I would say stay with it. Like,
I would actually say don't get next. Like, just stay with it, because clearly it's been working. You've been doing these videos. I mean, most people don't care about finishing in 4K. So if you have a great 1080p camera, go in there. Now, if you care for yourself to be able to zoom in, let's say, because you're still going to finish in 1080p.
That's exactly what he says actually in the next follow-up thing. He's saying that sometimes he tries to zoom, wants to crop in, and then he gets...
Yeah, so that's when having higher resolution, like let's say 4K camera, might be beneficial. But then I would say, like, I guess he's saying, what's the camera he has right now?
It's a Canon 5D.
Canon 5D, which is a great camera, yeah. So you have Canon lenses. I mean, you can really use any like Sony cameras, because I mean, if you want to get affordable 4K camera, I would say either Sony or Panasonic, because Canon is kind of ridiculous right now with the prices of their 4K cameras. But if you jump on Sony or you jump on Panasonic, you can get adapters, so you can still use your Canon lenses, because I'm guessing you have all your Canon lenses. So then, I would just say in that case, if you're looking for the best bang for the buck, probably Sony A6300. We shot with it, a great camera, and a similar price range, cheaper now because it's on discount, is the Panasonic GH4, right?
Right, and somebody says they saw GH4 for 750.
Oh, so I would say get it. We're still using that camera. Yeah. Like, it's an amazing camera. There's a film actually, the last film that we shot that I'm still working on the post-production, was shot on the GH4, so it's an amazing camera. Yeah.
And here somebody was actually, another option here, and somebody, from Kenny Simmons, he's saying he's thinking about buying the Lumix G7 for short films. And any thoughts on it, about that? And then he's using right now a Nikon D5300. So the Panasonic G7, we really like that camera, because it's got, in terms of the image quality, it's very similar to GH4 to G85 to.
I would say the 4K looks amazing in it. The thing that you're not gonna get is the slow motion, right? Well, you get up to 60 frames, right, in 1080.
I'm not sure actually about this.
No?
I won't say.
Because I know at G85 you get it, but double check the specs on that. So but I mean, again, how often do you shoot slow motion? I mean, most people don't, but it is nice to have it.
I'll just say on that camera, I don't like the stock lens on it, but usually, I mean, it makes sense to buy the stock lens, since usually they charge you so little for it, so it makes sense. But
you get it.
But I would plan to, use other lenses, or
probably adapters and.
I mean, speed booster, Metabond speed booster is a great choice if you're using any of those Panasonic cameras, especially if you have lenses like Canon lenses or other lenses, right?
Like, when it comes to quality, though, comparing it, it's a camera that's amazing 4K. The difference that you're gonna get with, let's say, the GH4 is you're gonna get bigger slow motion, and you're gonna get, like, for example, log profiles if you care about that. And again, if you're shooting in 8-bit, I would say most of the time you want to stay away from it anyways. And that's also the difference. Let's say if you're debating between G7 and maybe let's say Sony A6300. Yeah, as you get the slow motion Sony 6300, and you're getting the S-Log, right, 2 and 3. But again, it's not something that everybody cares about, or that most people know how to use properly. So, yep.
Okay, and what else here? There's another person here thinking about buying the GH5, and actually there was a couple of questions about the GH5 I wanted to address. About the okay, so what lens do you think I should pair it up with for a good all-rounder? And we're doing some low light stuff, low light, shots, music videos, artistic work in general. And then I know there was another person in the audience who mentioned that the GH4 I guess is not a good camera in low light because of the small image sensor. So to that I would just say watch your video from this week about the noise, how to get noiseless videos. It talks about
but or even you watch my original review of the GH4 where I show stuff I shot like in Little Italy and in New York City, low light, and some stuff like in Chinatown, and you'll see these shots that I got in low light. The camera performs well. I mean, if you want a camera that's like a night vision camera, like the Sony A7S II, then yeah, I mean, if you're doing like documentary work where you don't care about the image quality, you just care about getting an exposure, then yes, that's not the camera for you. But if you just want nice exposure, I don't care whether you're shooting a Sony A7S II or A6500, you're gonna need light, some kind of light. And with minimal light, GH4 or in GH5 works amazing. And again, see the last video that we did, and you get nice clean images and stuff. So that shouldn't hold you back. If you're having those kind of problems, like some people told me, I have the GH4, I'm having all these problems with the low light. All this stuff is really grainy. I tell them right away, then you're doing something wrong. Because I have the camera, I'm working with it, and I've worked with cameras like the Ursa, for example, Mini, right? 4.6K. That camera, highest ISO it has is 1600, but that's already pretty grainy. So really the highest I shoot with it is ISO 800. And I've never had a problem, never had to go higher than that. And even, like I said, it's not always stuff that I'm lighting. It's just I'm using available light. So I might be on the street, so using street light that's there, or, lighting coming off a store, things like that.
So for that GH5, so what lenses would you recommend? And I guess Metabones, speed booster,
if you're doing stuff that's like cinematic and stuff, you want that shallower depth of field, then get the Metabone speed booster and get like some, I would say, nice Canon lenses, because then, there's some nice like Rokinon, for example, lenses with Canon EF mount. That will, then you can, if in case you switch to other cameras, Sony's or Canon, you can still use it using adapters. So I would recommend that. Probably the first lens then I would recommend is like the 50mm. If you can't afford, something very expensive, get the Canon 50mm, the f1.4 is it? Yeah, 1.4. It's like $100 now. No, a 1.8.
1.8 is the cheap one.
Yeah,
the plastic one.
Yeah, but it's still an amazing lens, and I use it all the time. That's the lens I would get as the first lens, and then after that you build your lens collection. If you're talking about, and you're on the GH4 or GH5 cameras, like basically micro four thirds mount, and you want like also nice telephoto, then obviously skip the Metabones, because you want zoom in better, and that's what these cameras are better, because they have a cropped sensor. So then I would then use probably the Lumix Vario, get from Panasonic Lumix Vario 35 to 100, right? That's the one. Lumix Vario G lens.
The long one,
yeah. 35 to 100mm. Amazing zoom lens, image stabilize, all that stuff. And on a GH5, it's gonna be like, it's like an equivalent of like if you're on a Canon 5D, of like going with like the 70 to 200mm, Canon lens, except it's way cheaper. And you get nice zoom in. You get so it's. That's what I would.
Here from Sally Cortez, he's recommending for the GH5 the Sigma 18 to 35. Are you familiar with that one?
Sigma 18 to 35. Yeah. That's the Sigma 30. No, actually, the one I have right now that you guys are seeing me with, because we're filming with the Ursa Mini 4.6K, and I have the 18 to 55, I think it is, and 18 to 35. You said that's the one that's like a bit faster and really nice lens, really sharp. So. Also, another great lens, because it gives you that kind of a nice, wide angle and a bit going into kind of those mid kind of range focal length. So,
okay. Here is like also a very interesting question. I want to film want to film some low budget novels in Africa, I guess, yeah, I don't know, yeah, whether it's TV, like TV work or films. But anyway, so he's going to Africa and he might be there for a couple of months and he cannot rent, so he's just bringing his camera. Should he get a GH5 or a cinema camera? I guess like a bigger camera.
If you're going, and you're doing it as kind of, more low budget and it's just you or a very small crew, maybe 1 or 2 assistants, it's probably going to be easier going with like the GH5 because it's amazing on battery life. Like I said, throw in a metabones, you get a nice shallow depth of field, wide angles, but put on a standard lens on it, a micro four thirds lens, and you get the nice longer, shots. It's smaller, lighter camera, shoots 10-bit internally. I mean, like what's not to like? I would say, in that case, yeah, just go with GH5, and it's weather sealed, which is a really really important thing when you're shooting on these kind of locations. So that would be my advice.
Okay, and sorry.
Any more questions, or
There's
do you want to jump
questions,
into?
but maybe let's just jump into. Oh, actually, there's here. Maybe I don't know. It's a difficult question, so I'm not sure whether I should try tackle it, but it's an interesting one. What from Chris Marcella? What have been like the biggest obstacles that we've had on shoots, and how did we overcome them?
Biggest obstacles, I would just say it's just dealing with people. I mean, especially like on film shoots, right?
Right.
You get people like on our, first feature film that we did as a company, that we wrote, directed, produced, all that stuff. The one that was shot on film, we're telling you guys, in 2002. We had, most people were really cool, but we had one actor who kind of created some problems. But overall, we had to basically get him out of the movie. It was not pleasant working with him, and so we had to cut around it, right? And because it was difficult, we shot already some scenes with him. Yeah, then I ended up using some special effects because we couldn't reshoot part of the scene, so I had to cover his face in part of the scene, and then in other parts we used another actor, like things like that. So that's the worst thing. Weather's usually the problem on a lot of shoots.
Usually time. I mean, you don't have enough time usually.
Yeah, I guess.
So
there's always, I would say, if you have extra money that you don't know what to do with, which is rarely the case, but if you have some money and you're like, where should we spend it on? Spend it on extra shooting days. Get extra, whatever, is it food or the salaries for your actors, everybody. So get extra shooting days because you're always gonna need more time, right? Than you estimate. So.
Yeah, I can see in terms of, it's important to secure your location. So wherever you're shooting,
Yeah.
People know you're coming there. You won't have any problems, right? So you have the permission and so on. Because sometimes, if you don't do that, then that might really derail your production.
Yeah.
Now,
or have backups, like that music video I showed you guys who was shot downtown Toronto. We didn't have permits, and there's no way we could have gotten permits there with that, basically the short, schedule that we had and everything. But anyways, we went there, shot the stuff, but we had backups in case that didn't work out or we get kicked out. We knew we could shoot another scene and it would still work. So
yeah.
So
I mean, there's.
That's why I would say overall we didn't really have any big problems with any of our productions because we always have a backup plan, right? We plan very well.
Sometimes we came up with the backup plan after the fact. But the thing is, don't get stuck. I guess this has to be like that, and then just adapt to the situation. That's what I would say. Because but the thing is, if you have a lot of money, then you can arrange things, and then unexpected things will happen. But then if you don't have money, it means you're shooting, you're just going to be more flexible. You're shooting with smaller crew and all that.
Yeah.
So you can adjust more quickly, right, on the go, because, you can move quickly and
if the weather doesn't work out and stuff, you might not have another location to go to, but then just make up stuff on the go.
Well, one thing is if you get the big production, then one day costs, so many, $100,000 or something like that, with the crew and everything, right? So for them to change things, it's really difficult.
Yeah.
Well, for you, then you can shoot maybe the next day, just change things up. Not every production, obviously, but you should have more flexibility in a way in terms of rescheduling than than these big productions where it's huge amounts of money that are in play, right? And again, with gear, it's if you're renting, that's a big of a problem. Rescheduling, if you own the camera, and it gives you all that flexibility. So that's another advantage of using gear that's not maybe the most expensive. Okay, there's some really cool submissions. You wanna?
Okay, so let me go.
The first one I wanted to, the one from New Zealand.
Well, here I'm just gonna click this. I've set up this thing here. And
okay.
we'll see what it is. So this one.
Okay, I don't know. No, I don't.
No?
I don't think it's this one. But anyway,
So this one is.
It's from Germany and it's in German, so we cannot really.
This one's called Dress Up.
Right.
Come with me, right?
Yeah.
And it's filmed by.
Here, Philip Warneke. Here, right there, sir, in the credits.
Yeah. I'm just looking at actually here the settings. I know we want to play the audio or not.
You can play the audio on this one.
Yeah,
I think we'll play the audio, even though we'll get in trouble with YouTube on these videos, because some of the later videos have for sure music that's going to be, we're going to get a warning that we don't have the rights to use it. But
you guys can hear it, hopefully.
Also nicht? Tschüss.
Ach, denkst du heute an den Garten?
Ja, mach ich. Aber jetzt sieh zu, dass du da kommst.
So yeah, so you guys can see that's the film. This is the first time I'm actually watching it. So.
Yeah. Well, I mean, just look at the cinematography and.
Was that that doorbell? Was that in the film or?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm like, somebody upstairs ringing. Even here, I think it's using the actual light there in the location, but it's just here like a little overlay with the phone. And even though it's low light, they're not afraid to keep a lot of the scene in the dark. To avoid basically, like bring up exposure on dark areas, basically adding on to all this noise, which is again something I talked about in the video we did last week or this week, right? And like using a lot of this ambient light. Did the filmmaker provide any info about like what camera this was shot with or anything like that?
No.
And what was
on one weekend they shot it? Just a group of friends shot this over a weekend.
Okay. Yeah, like the moving shots there in the underground. Nice.
Scheiße, was machst du hier?
And here, like simple lighting in the car. But it just, it looks good. Now, I don't have the subtitles, so I don't know exactly what they're saying. What is this film from? Is it like somewhere in Scandinavia, right?
From Germany.
Oh, it's German, okay.
Schlüssel vergessen? Ben?
Let's see also.
Anziehen, mitkommen.
Do we have time to go through the whole thing or no?
I think she jumped to the other ones.
Yeah.
Caro ist heute Morgen
I think the settings will not change much. I mean, there's going to be. I mean, there's they've got the scenes in the camera in the car. So
here I would say, like overall, I really love the intro and the underground. We had the kind of the parking lot, had nice look and everything. Here I feel like something with the location. The camera work is really good. The way the camera, like using one shot and the camera pans around and gets good framing. That I really liked. It was something with that location. Maybe it was just a plain white wall. Something was missing in there for me. But I really love the intro, like it really looked big budget and with the intro, with the underground, with the cars. Things. So let me just kind of jump forward, like you see here, and also the color grading here in these scenes, kind of having that kind of blue overall tone. Yeah, it's well done. So, anyways, like I'm skipping here through this because, just wanted to.
Just looking at the cinematography, right?
Yeah, so next one, which one should I play?
The one from New Zealand is, I think, like the bright colors there. See the festival colors.
Okay. So here, let me make this bigger.
Are you able to play the music? It's really good. It's makes the video much better.
Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah,
so
but it's actually an artist from. You hear his songs a lot on YouTube, but the artist.
Feel alive in the light, feel alive in the summertime. And we are breaking free now wherever we go.
series. This is the second festival like this.
I love the fact that there is so much color in it.
Right, and he's going to be shooting more of these. So he's saying that. He shot it on the GH4, and also the Drycam HD 2000. Also this Panasonic Go 35 F2.8 printer. Also the Helios 50 Aputure, and the drone shots of the Inspire 1. He thinks he's the only one who managed to overheat the G4. But he had to put a lot of protection on the camera because of all the powder, right? So that was challenging to shoot in that environment.
That's what I was gonna say. Is like I don't care what camera you're shooting with, but the fact that they have your water spraying and they have all this powder on them, that's the stuff that kind of gets in there. So I think there was a shot there of him, right?
He says that. So the GH4 is still alive, still working, but he said some of the powder got inside some of the lenses.
And it looks beautiful. Like, look at these shots. Like, see, like here, just using the because the setting is so cool, and because the setting is like how it's something that you don't usually see, but like that right away is a production value. I mean, that dust with the colors and all that stuff just makes the shot look interesting. And at the end of the day, this, if you shot it, with any other camera, even like an old Sony NEX camera, yeah, the way you wouldn't get 4K, but you're still gonna get, nice looking, what do you call it? Nice looking, shots, because it's something that looks unique, right? So it's the production value that really matters the most. And then, like I said, if you're just stepping up your cameras, you're just increasing slightly the resolution, maybe the way the highlights are handled, but overall great work here.
So he's looking for suggestions for future events from this series, and anything he can improve on in terms of filming, editing.
Oh, okay.
Piotr Kwasnik, yeah. And
well, I mean, I would say some of this, like the slow motion shots that he got, were really cool. And what do you call it? Here, let me switch.
I mean, we like the video a lot, right? So that's one.
Yeah, we like the video a lot. So I would say switching, just I would say with the editing work a little bit, but for me, it was just my own personal preference. I like the shots that were kind of more zoomed in more, and the slow motion, where then you see that powder react, and you see that shallow depth of field with the powder, and it just looks like wow, like cinematic, right? So I would just say more of those kind of shots. The aerial shots were nice, but I will always won't say they're too much. Like for me, there was a few cool aerial shots where you go woof, like you see, like it's like a specific moment, but I would say it's not needed as much. That's my own preference. I don't know about you.
I mean, it's an amazing video.
But otherwise, it's edited well.
If you're trying to go maybe do something new, maybe what if you had parts where actually you hear something from the people who participate in this festival? So it's not just cool song and all these amazing shots. It's also maybe.
Oh yeah, maybe.
So just
moments.
in terms of like just
selling the atmosphere there better.
Yeah,
right?
Just a different approach.
Getting some sound.
But in terms of visually, I mean, this video, the way this video works very well, right? If you just
like to me, it's very very good video. So don't get this as thing. It's just I think you can make it even better by literally cutting out some of the shots that were there, like or not including them as much, not as many aerial shots, not as much things. So either make the video shorter or just simply include more of those other shots, like I was telling you, that is more slow motion, that kind of dramatic kind of thing, contrast, where you're seeing it, somebody moving really fast and suddenly slow motion. But also like the more of those, like when you had those shots where it was close up and you're seeing people's reactions, because at the end of the day, I think we like to see other people. We like to see other people in their environment, or whether they're happy or sad, right? That's everything that we do. Like when we tell stories with videos, music videos.
Our brain is constantly looking for faces, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So if you show other people and you're seeing their emotion in there, and this one is they're just having a blast and jumping around, that's what's really cool. And you had that. I'm just simply saying put even more of that.
For me, challenge with video like that, that's always like the length of it, because it becomes repetitive. So you cannot make it too long. So either maybe cut down or add other type of content. That's why I thought maybe having these short lines from people, who are at the festival and so on, just to break it up, right? If you want,
I mean, it could even be somebody screaming like oh my God, or whatever, like they're saying something, welcome from whatever, New Zealand or whatever, right?
But it's something always like we all filmmakers run towards, like it's really cool content, but becomes repetitive. So, sometimes you just have to cut it down, or
But no, it was good. All right, next thing is here. This is what is it? It's a music video, right? Let me see. Maybe Lucas, you can tell us. It's Georgiana.
It's like
Onuti.
it's a music video. It's a religious. It's about.
Should I play the music for this or no?
Yes, do because it makes it much more.
More thing. Okay.
So it's a very unusual music video. It's nothing like what you would see, I guess, in the old days on MTV. But it's a religious, but it's a very beautiful shot.
But the shots are really nice. Like you said, it's not your typical music video as in the costumes and everything, but in a way, see, that's production value. Having the fact that people are dressed in a unique way and it's in an interesting way. The location, wow, like this shot I really like. See, that's what a lot of times it's the production design. I mean, you get nice locations, get nice costumes, then also on top of that lighting. In this case, you're shooting outside, so you're using the available light to your advantage. And here, I love like how looks like there's some slight lighting on her face, maybe with a reflector, but the background is just using that ambient light of this big, vast kind of space.
So this video is from Andrew Lesan, and he shot it in Romania, and he shot it in Sony A6500 and A6300, and in S-Mark III. So it's a music video about faith and God, religion, and what do you think about color grading and composition itself? He's asking.
Color grading is nice. I mean, it's not over the top, like it's not really stylized, so which is more of a safer route, which maybe works for this, because it is a religious kind of more traditional thing, so you probably don't want to go overboard. So it's kind of more, like I said, it's keeping the colors not 100% neutral, but it's close to it, which I think works for this music video. It has the nice contrast. Yeah, it looks nice. I mean, the only shot I don't like is this white shot here. It's at the beginning when the camera was moving in, it was nice, but afterwards I wouldn't cut to it as much. But this close-up, see here, where you're filling the screen with that interesting altar, it looks a lot more interesting.
The ceiling here.
Yeah, like here you just see too much of stuff that's not really necessary. So if you want to show more of the other people, I would just say do more close-ups of them and cut to an angle where you get this nice, like you see here, you're getting a nice shallow depth of field, you're filling the screen with those nice, the nice pieces there. And even like this shot, like this looks much better than the really white shot.
I wonder
the white shot looked good when it was at the beginning, when it was introducing the location, the camera was moving, because that movement itself makes it look like not like just all a regular video. Like see here when the camera's moving, it just makes it feel, I think, more interesting.
I wonder how he stabilized the shot, because he's using the 6300 and 6500, and the main difference, I guess, reason to use the 6500 is the IS. So I'm wondering whether that's the reason why. And
maybe you can leave us a comment and let us know whether you used the gimbal with this or whether it was just to use the in-body stabilization or something.
It looks really stable.
Oh, see, like here, look at this white shot where he's showing that ceiling with the it just looks something cool, and the fact the camera is moving, like that looks beautiful. This shot looks beautiful outside. So like, just that one shot you had where it was this white shot inside the church that was static, I would just say it's kind of boring. But the rest of the stuff looks really beautiful. Yeah, I like it. It's very subtle, but it's kind of gives you this kind of I guess the appropriate look for this, because you don't want these punchy colors or very stylized colors for this one. I mean, it's about a kind of religious music video. And like see here, with the fact that he's having the camera moving and the locations are nice. These interesting buildings. Or this, like that nice ceiling. That's all, that's all production value, right? Sometimes it could be a set that you're building, sometimes it's just something that you build, or some location that you find. All right, so let's change now here. Let's go to another clip. Since we still have time with it.
Oh, we're over an hour, but let's try maybe the image. Yeah, image film. Yeah, that's the one.
So here, Image Film Studio presents, and this is I'm watching this first time. So should I play the sound for this one, Lucas, or no?
Sure. I mean, yeah, I guess. I guess it doesn't matter at this point. We're going to get notification from YouTube that we don't.
As long as they don't take down them. Well, this is like a really known song, so
I
maybe
know.
I'll turn it off.
Yeah.
Let's see. Also, it's gonna be more interesting for us too. You can hear us talking. So, okay, so it's a music video, right?
No, it's just I think it's just like this short film, but I think it's just
to music, right?
Yeah, I think it's just testing, just experimenting with the.
And okay, so who submitted this? And
it's Konrad, Mariusz, Jablonski.
Oh, from Poland?
I don't think he's in Poland because just looking at the signs there.
No, that looks like it's Poland actually.
No, but I saw some of the signs there. It's not in Poland, but
somewhere in Europe.
Well, yeah, either Germany or like Scandinavian countries. And just some general feedback he's asking for in terms of his cinematography.
There's some interesting shots. It just sort of looks like you get moments where okay, it's like a cool angle, and then suddenly it transitions to something that's not too interesting, because it almost looks like it wasn't like the camera movement and the framing also wasn't very well planned. Kind of seems like you were on a gimbal, I guess, or just like a Steadicam, and he was just moving around with it, and you see like that nice close up of the hair. That's like okay, here we're focusing on just the hair moving. That's like a nice shot. And that's if you stick to more stuff like that, like if you get a close-up of the hand or wide shot suddenly or things like that. Whereas a lot of that stuff, like this one I like, with nice kind of zoomed in, and you're just showing stuff that's interesting, which in this case is, the subject you're following. Because sometimes the locations in the wider shots, especially like at the beginning, those wider angles, the locations look really, like this is a nice shot again of the tree there. This here when you're zooming in like this, here with the light, like those are cool shots. But the stuff I didn't like was especially at the beginning where it was these wide angles and he was on a Steadicam or like a handheld, stabilizer, and also it was just very wobbly, kind of going, swaying, like looked like it was way too bottom heavy. So that's the stuff that I would say is where you could have improved. That make sure you balance the stabilizer better, or and also just practice with it more. So because if you're going for smooth shots, but then they're smooth, but they're kind of like smooth and wobbly. Just looks almost like you're drunk or something. It's that didn't fit very well. And also sometimes it's just because of it seemed like you were and I can understand it can be hard film with the kid, but you were unrehearsed. I guess you were just following the girl and she was walking around, and so sometimes you got like moments of nice framing and then it just goes here and then you see like all this boring stuff that's not necessary. Those are the things you want to watch out for. And color grading is a little like for me. I would go for something more, even more stylized. It's a little too plain for me. That's the only thing. But I get, but that really comes down to preference. You might be like, hey, I like it. I don't like over the top colors. And I know I've gotten criticized for that. Like I do over the top like color grades on a lot of stuff I do, and some people hate it. So it just comes down to preference. You want to look at the last submission?
Well, there's more. There's
more. Okay. All right. So since we're behind schedule, and we still have more questions, we'll leave the other submissions that we didn't get to again, as always, next week. So what's
the fire off some of the questions?
Yeah.
Okay. Does the 10-bit really matter in shooting internally in the GH5 VLOG or just shoot? Yeah.
If you're shooting in VLOG in the log profile and any log profile, right? But in Panasonic it's the VLOG. You want to be shooting higher bitrate because kind of essentially what you're trying to do is you're trying to with the log image profile you're trying to squeeze more information from the highlights and the shadows, and so if you squeeze that into an 8-bit image, that's not 8-bit is really what's meant to be viewed, not as the acquisition. So if you record, let's say, something in 8-bit, but the colors already look how you want them to do, and you might do slight adjustments of colors, but you're not going to push them too hard, then your image is not going to fall apart. But if you take an 8-bit image and you really, let's say, have to color grade it, because first you got to take this log image, right, that's very flat and lacking of contrast and color, and you got to convert that, and then into a proper video, and then you take that and let's say and further stylize it with color grading. well, you're taking an 8-bit image and really throwing away a lot of those bits of colors in there. And since you already only have 8 bits of colors, and you kind of want to finish with a good 8-bit, looking image, then the chances are, that most of the time you're going to see that that's where the image starts falling apart. So that's what I would say. If you're shooting in any log profile, so Panasonic GH5 shooting vlog, yes, you want to shoot in 10-bit. Otherwise, maybe the 10-bit doesn't make that much of a difference. Like if you just simply, I did tests actually with the GH4 where I shot internally 8-bit and externally 10-bit, the same shots, the same everything. And when you see that video comparison, because I didn't do any color grading really or any heavy color grading, and there's like no difference. You can't tell apart which is which. But if you're going to be color grading, and which you have to do with vlog or S-Log, all that stuff, that's why you want to be shooting with higher bitrate. That's the reason why I'm kind of like, little, disappointed with Sony that they're providing these S-Log and S-Log 2, S-Log 3, in these really great little cameras like Sony A6500, 6300. But the problem is that they're not providing you it's a little like here is a little teaser. You can have S-Log, but if you're going to use it in this camera, it's going to look like crap because we're only giving you 8-bit. And that's why a lot of stuff that people shoot in an S-Log or S-Log 2, S-Log 3 ends up looking really bad because they're not shooting on cameras that can actually shoot 10-bit or 12-bit because Sony reserves that for the more expensive cameras.
Okay, so follow-up question: do you recommend Sony A7 II or Sony A6500?
For just video work, I would say Sony A7S II is a better camera. The reason is because you can still crop in and you have the APS size image sensor, but then if you want that bigger image sensor, the full frame look, and you have full frame lenses, then you have that option. It has a better, there's still a rolling shutter there, as in, the image gets kind of skewed if you're moving it around or there's a lot of vertical lines moving across the screen, but it's not as noticeable as A6500. And it still has image stabilization, has great autofocus, the Sony A7S II. Really, I would say the difference is this. You're saving a lot of money buying the Sony A6500. So if you don't care about having that option of shooting with full frame, and you don't care about the fact that you might get some rolling shutter really noticeable with the Sony A6500, then go for Sony A6500. Like shooting a lot of stuff on tripods, or there's not a lot of like that kind of handheld kind of movements, then you probably won't notice much of a difference. Now at the same time, if you care about those things, then I would say go with the Sony A7S II. But again, you gotta take into account that you're paying a lot more money.
Right? Do I need to worry about the crop factor? Yeah.
On which camera?
Just in general, do you need to worry about crop factor?
We worry. You got to be aware of your crop factor, right? Because whether you're shooting with full frame lenses, you got to be aware of that. Like sometimes a full frame camera is not good because you'll get full frame cameras, and for that, then you have to use full frame lenses. And there's a lot of great cinema lenses that are not full frame because most of cinema is shot with a super 35mm image sensor, so it covers that, which is almost the same size as a APS-C size image sensor, like what the Sony A6500 is going to have, or Canon 7D, like 60D, those cameras. So because of that, you got to be aware of it. Like know that a 50mm lens looks different on a full frame, on an APS size, or on Micro Four Thirds. It just looks different because the framing is, the field of view is different. So you got to be aware of it. But does it make a difference? Yeah, it makes a difference sometimes. It doesn't mean that one is better than others, is what I'm saying. It's just be aware of it and use it to your advantage. If you're going for really long shots, really want to zoom in and all that stuff, shooting on a smaller image sensor is actually way better because you're going to get, easier to focus. You're going to be able to, with a 100mm, you could zoom in way more than you can on a full frame lens. On a full frame lens, 100mm is not really that much of a zoom lens. So versus, let's say, a Micro Four Thirds. So those are things to be aware of. But sometimes, let's say, if you want to get those crazy wide angle shots, well then it's going to be a lot more difficult than getting that on a smaller sensor like a Micro Four Thirds. Then you probably want to go with full frame. So
okay, so that's the follow-up question here here I have a Canon 80D, so the sensor is cropped. Would it be better to get 24mm or 35mm for portraits? So I guess he's looking into the fact that normally
24 or which one?
Or 35mm because it's
I would say for portraits, 35 is that's again my preference
because it's cropping, right?
Yeah,
on
yeah,
the
it's,
ADD.
yeah, but I would say 35 is even on that, even though it's cropping. I shoot a lot of like my photography with the
Yeah.
Canon 7D. I still love it for photos. It's APS-C size image sensor, the same as in that camera.
Yeah.
And for photography, for portraits, I always go with 50 millimeter. Sometimes I'll go a little bit wider, but I go between 50 millimeter to like a 70, 80 millimeter lens. That's how I like my thing, because I find if you start going wider than like basically, smaller focal length than 50 millimeter, you start getting, especially if you want to get those nice kind of close-up portraits, you gotta move in closer, then the perspective changes, and then you make distorting people's faces. So you're gonna basically see more like let's say their nose is gonna look bigger, their face is gonna look a bit fatter, kind of thing. So it's not as pleasant, like not as thing. So for me, when I do photography, portraits especially, which is something I love doing the most, I stick to 50 millimeter to like I would say 50 to like between 50 and 80 millimeter, but 50 is majority of what I shoot on. So I would even say 35 is a little too wide for me, but if you're choosing between those two, yeah, go with 35. 24, it's if you're doing a full body shot and like pretty much a wide angle shot of like let's say a person, but then also the location, yeah, that's what it's good for. But if you're doing a portrait, meaning usually going like medium or even close up, stay away from 24. You're gonna distort people's faces unless you're going for funny looking portraits, like if like those funny shots, somebody looks like really exaggerated, or let's say like a clown or something, and you want them to, then I mean go for it. But if you want it to be like a natural, nice looking portrait, then yeah.
So I think you might have answered this question, but in terms of lens for weddings, and I think he was referring to like for crop cameras, like the Micro Four Thirds and APS-C sensors. Like, so what lenses would you recommend for weddings?
I mean, you kind of weddings, again, that depends what your style is, but you kind of want the whole range, because sometimes, like let's say you're gonna go in and to this, let's say the venue is really nice, right, where the party is, or the church might be really beautiful location. Then you want to show that. How do you show that? Well, then in that case, you want really wide angle lenses. So if you're on a cropped sensor like Micro Four Thirds, I'm not saying it's not possible, but it's going to be a lot more difficult. On a full frame camera, you can get that. So in that case, that's why a lot of top wedding shooters I know, they usually have two cameras, like one that is going to be maybe a little bit more cropped in, one that's full frame, so they can quickly switch, and also so that they literally have those lenses already mounted on there. So for the full frame, they'll already mount like more of the wider angle lenses, and then let's say on their APS-C size cameras, they'll put I would say in that case you want to go something like probably like a 70 to 200, like the Canon 70 to 200, would be a great lens, or Sigma or Tamron make similar ones that are more affordable, because they're they're fast lenses, and 70 you could still get from like a normal distance, you can get a nice kind of a portrait shot. So let's say if you're close to a subject and you want to just get like a nice shot on them with shallow depth of field, but also if they're really far away, let's say it's a party, or let's say they're walking down the aisles in the church, and you want to be able to zoom in while you're, let's say, by the altar, you with 70 to 200, you can do that. Quickly zoom in, get that shot. Then when they get closer, boom, zoom out, and you're getting a bit wider shot, at the altar. So things like that. Wedding is difficult because it's, you gotta be like this on point. You gotta get the angles.
You're not controlling.
And you do not want to be making noise. So the last thing you want to do is in the middle of a ceremony or something. It's like switching lenses and making noise. I mean, you have to have cameras that are, that's why most times I've seen, I myself don't shoot weddings, but when I've attended weddings and I've seen other guys who are good shoot weddings, they usually have 2, sometimes 3 cameras on their neck, and they have just different lenses, so they can quickly switch between one and the other, both for photography and for video.
Okay. If you have to choose between one, which would you choose, monopod or glide cam?
Monopod or glide cam?
I mean, you've been using glide cam way more than monopods, right?
Yeah, I'm not a monopod guy, but there is actually one that I showed. I forgot the name now. It's from Cam TV, and I did a review of these like these 2 or 3 of these that I tried out little Steadicam stabilizers from kind of glide cam style from Cam TV, and one of them what's really cool is that it's a glide cam / a monopod. And I show it in the video how I use it, and it's actually really cool because it's light. So for lighter cameras, it works great. But it's like literally you just unscrew this little like this little latch on the bottom, and the leg drops, and you can use it as a monopod very quickly. But then if you want it, bring it back up, and you can use it as a glide cam. So it's a really cool thing. So I would say if you want, go for that one. Then you have 2. But if you're just asking my preference, yeah, usually I go for the GlideCam. Because, GlideCam, I can always tell if I want to grab the bottom of it or like rest it here on my stomach or something, I can still get fairly steady shots like this for longer periods of time, but then I can move with it, right? Monopod, I mean, it's more just static shots.
Can you say something about the editing equipment necessary to edit these large files?
Fast hard drives, right? Number one thing. I mean, you can do it off of laptops, like we're sometimes I'm on location editing 4K or even RAW files, but you need fast hard drives. And what I mean by that is not even like external drives. You get like some good SSDs in your laptop or in your desktop computer.
So the
fast SSDs.
So the Windows, or your the Mac operating system.
Yeah, it doesn't matter what operating system you have, and doesn't matter what editing program you have, but big files just simply means there's a lot of data that your computer needs to read, and you can have the fastest processor and everything, but if your hard drives are slow, then your processor just simply can't read it faster because the hard drives are slowing it down. So you need fast hard drives. That's the biggest thing I've noticed, the biggest difference. And like on my laptop right now, like this is the one that I kind of use when I'm traveling. I have one SSD which is just my operating system, and then another SSD which is going to be the what do you call it, like for all my video files. And then any other drives that I put on there are going to be just like usually normal drives. I could say like a USB drive that I'll plug in that are going to be much slower. So if I'm noticing right away that I'm editing off that drive and it's just the footage is not playing right, first thing I'll do is copy the footage over to my fast SSD that's inside the laptop, and kind of usually then, because I have limited space there, I kind of delete all the other projects, just copy that one project I'm working on, and I'll test it out, and usually that fixes the problem. My video plays smoothly.
Yeah, I mean, just one general thing in terms of the hardware, just make sure your CPU is, has 4 cores. Don't get one of those ultrabooks with 2, cores. So any of those Intel processors that end with U, so those are the ones you want to avoid, right? And otherwise, also get a laptop or a desktop with a GPU too, right?
All that.
Now I like the one I have right here. It's got a 1050 GTX 1050, so it's not like a very powerful. It's a low voltage actually GPU, but for Premiere it's fine. It works, and I use like a GH5 footage. I can edit, right? No problem. Now, so yeah, that's the thing. Now, if you're going to be using DaVinci Resolve, which also is a really great software to learn and to use, and it's free too. So, and for that, you do want actually a more powerful GPU. So for that, I recommend getting a laptop, for example, with 1060 GTX 1060. So I wouldn't go for the 1050 Ti or 1050 that I have here. I would go for 1060. It's like a good value in terms of it's not an expensive. Those laptops are still not super expensive, but there's it gives you good power. 1070 if you can get it too, but it becomes the laptop becomes bigger, heats up more, and so on. For a desktop, the machine that you're using, it's got a GTX 1070, right? So that's a very powerful machine, and you use raw files. You work on the raw files from the Ursa Mini 4.6, and it's no problem. So those are the things you look for in terms of the hardware, right?
All right, so we're over, right?
Yeah.
Over an hour. Any other questions we can jump into, or?
Well, in terms of how to handle storage for feature films, because of these huge amounts of data, it's something we are, I guess, figuring out.
Yeah, that was the advantage of back in the day when you're shooting, even like on tapes, or when you're shooting on film, like, because you would have the film negative. You always have that. Like, even if anything else went wrong, you can rescan that negative or whatever it was. So that was the advantage of that, is you had this kind of medium that lasted, for a long time. Now with digital, it's, just the other day I was editing a project that I shot last year, and I have to actually get back to the producers of that film. So I was doing a little sequence, and I couldn't get extra shots that I needed because the drive that we, had it on, I just basically, I was busy for like the last month. I hadn't used it, and with these hard drives, when you're not using them, especially the ones that are, have moving physical parts, if you don't turn them on ever so on, they'll just stop working, and that's what happened to that drive. The drive just died, and so it's
I think there are 2 things we are looking at. We haven't implemented them, but one is a network access storage, so NAS drives, This way,
But then
they usually they come bigger, and the good thing is you can set up the automatic backup and so on when you're working.
Oh, okay.
Files.
Those would be automatically then
And they get
turning,
used
right?
all the time, right?
Yeah,
so
yeah.
as long as you make sure, that's the good thing, because with these portable drives that what we have right now, they're just collecting dust. So that's really, really bad,
Yeah,
right?
and then you connect it and it might just not work.
No, it's not. So I mean, but at the same time, like if you're doing feature films and so on, just having even one like 6 terabyte drive, if you have all these files, all these projects, sooner or later going to run out of space. Like that for us that would be enough storage. So the other thing we're looking at is like actually tape backup, but the new tapes. I forget now
But that's not, you can't really work off it. It's just more
just
once you're done
storage.
with the project.
Long-term storage, right?
But I think so for that, I mean, I think that is the best probably solution. The tape is because it's more you kind of trustworthy. You know that in a few years you can still read it.
Yeah.
But otherwise, I would say when you're working, you're probably looking for like those RAID drives, and like I said, probably maybe even I don't know. Can you read over a network like Ethernet? Could you read like those
People
4K files? Yeah.
Yeah, people do that, but you have to have really fast connections and so on. But yeah, you can do it. But at the same time, I mean, I would use it mainly for backup and still have local. It depends. Like if you have several people working on the same project, then you have to access the same files, right? Have access to the same files. It has to be centralized. So that's that kind of a NAS.
Which usually on a feature film, you're gonna have more than one person, working on it, and.
Well, yeah. So depends on the budget and so on, right? But it's a pain, it's a challenge, and it's not cheap to find any great solution. But I think for most people, who are if you're not doing feature films, then just having a NAS storage is enough. NAS drives is enough. Mm-hmm. That's what we are going to do next, I think, before we get.
Yeah, I mean, we're kind of figuring it out ourselves, right? What's the best way?
So if you guys have suggestions too, I know some people who follow us know way more about these things than us. So.
Yeah, I mean, we're learning with a lot of the stuff when it comes to the technical side of like computers and all that stuff. And whatever we've learned, we pass it along. We do videos about it, but there's also things like you see with the storage. It's been ongoing for a few months. I know I've been also scratching my head, trying out different things, talking to people, and seeing because there's solutions out there, but they're going to be super expensive. Yeah. So it's really coming down like what's most cost effective but still reliable and stuff. So.
Right.
Yeah.
Maybe quick tips for a starting photographer. He's done videography. Actually, Chris Marcella, for several weddings, but wants to get actually into photography. For weddings, I guess.
I mean, getting jobs, does he specify, or just?
He's just starting out. I mean, I guess he wants talking about the skills.
Skills, okay. Skills. Just shoot. It's like with video. Just shoot. The more you shoot, the better you're gonna get. So,
what's the difference? He's a videographer, so he's got already certain skills.
The difference is you still want to light. You still want to have a nice selection of lenses, so you have different options and things. But in a way, it can be easier with the lighting because for film, let's say to light, you usually have to be in a studio where you're fully controlling the lighting. Because when you go outside and it's really bright outside, that's when you're basically trying to compete with the strength of the sun, and it's very difficult in video because then you're talking about usually these big, powerful lights, and they require a lot of power, and it's a big setup and requires usually permits and all that stuff. With photography, there's amazing lighting kits right now that are because you're just lighting for that one frame that you take. So that's when you're going to be getting into flash photography. And I would say that's the first thing you want to figure out is what kind of flashes, what are flashes, how do they work with my camera. That's the first thing you want to, because that's a big difference between video and photo. Look at the thing and look at like I already did a few like examples and videos about some actually flashes I've been using, some new ones I'm testing out that I'll be probably doing videos about them too, that are more like portable. But there's flashes for studio use that will you can just plug into an outlet and they can recycle really fast. But then there's going to be other flashes that are going to be battery powered, and because of that, what they do is they kind of charge up, draw all big amperage from that battery, and then boom, they flash a really big amount of light, because you just need a really strong light, but you need it for that split second. And that means that you can then work with these tiny little flashes, like this size, that are internal batteries, and you can actually get nice, a lot of light. And with that, whether you're shooting outside in broad daylight or at night, you can actually light it. And like I said, just take a little flash, whether you mount it on top of your camera or you mount it on a tripod or a light stand. You can attach a softbox to it, things like that. So you know, all the other tools, whether it's the lighting modifiers like the diffusion, all that is all pretty much the same. But it's just the fact that you no longer need continuous light. Video, you need continuous light, and because of that, those lights are bigger, heavier, usually get hotter. Photography, you're talking about strobes, right, or flash photography. So because of that, they're going to be usually much smaller, more affordable. So that's a good thing. But get into that and figure out, basically learn about flash photography, because that's going to be a huge thing. You're still going to be lighting, but you basically want to stay away from just doing, like some people are like, oh, I know how to use flash photography, because all they do is they put a big flash on their camera and they're just shooting, because that looks really boring. It's kind of like having that, like imagine if you just put this big light here over your camera and just shooting video like that. You know, like let's say if that light was just like straight down my face, it would just create this glaring kind of deer cat in the headlights look. So you don't want that. So you want to then get creative with your flashes by taking them off of camera, putting them on light stands to the side, or putting them as a backlight, and using that, and taking nice photos, you know, just flashing and getting nice edge lighting, nice definition on faces, things like that. That's what's the biggest difference. It's just you're taking one picture versus 24 or 30 pictures a second. So it's a lot easier in that sense, because you can cheat for still more things for that one frame. You can also, you know, like let's say you want to make it look like somebody's flying in the air. Literally, you can just have them jump up and take a photo when they're in the air, right? Whereas with video, you would actually have to rig them up and make them look like they're flying, right? So because it has to be continuous. So those are the things to think about, is just realize that you're only capturing one small moment. So lighting is going to be easier, equipment is going to be lighter, and you can do a lot of cool tricks.
Yeah. Okay. What's the strongest ND that you can filter that you can get? Because we got somebody here that he shoots on the GH5 Vlog at 400 ISO. It's still overexposed. He still cannot, you know. So what's in terms of the ND filters? Well, I mean,
there's some crazy strong ones actually that I'm supposed to be testing. They don't have time. Companies send them to me, like they're variable NDs.
Variable.
I forgot the name of it now. They go. God, I think they go like 12 f-stops, which is a lot. That's like the most I've seen, I think, 12 f-stops. But the thing is, you also want to keep in mind is the stronger the ND filter is going to be, the more it's going to start offsetting your colors. Because literally what it's doing is blocking certain, you know, basically the amount of, like certain rays of light.
So that's not really neutral?
So, no, so the whole thing is like, it's always going to offset the colors, yeah. Some filters are better than others, as in they don't shift the colors as much, but they all shift. Like don't if you get the most expensive, you know, ND filter, but you also get the strongest one, you're gonna see color shift, because it's impossible to. Because really, what they're doing is they're putting things in there different ways and different techniques of basically stopping certain rays of light, you know, those photons from entering your lens. So what's gonna happen is some of those photons are gonna get through, some of them will not. And what happens then is, if let's say more photons of this certain color will get in, well then your image is gonna have more of that tint of those colors or other colors. That's the, you know, without getting too technical.
Okay.
That's what it is. It's just there's some crazy strong NDs, but I would say, I mean, if you're shooting at, you know, using ISO 400, if you're getting like an ND, you know, 1.5, which is what that is what 5 I think f-stops. I forget now. No, not 5 f-stops. 4 f-stops. I have it off now. A little tired today, but yeah, that ND 1.5 is going to be more than like you shouldn't go more than that. I've never had to go more than that.
So the number doesn't signify how much you're reducing the.
No. Okay. It's just the strength of it. So it's 1.5 is like the thing, but I would even say it's like 0.9. Get that 0.9. If you get like a 0.9 ND and a 1.5. Or you just get a variable ND that can, you know, you can adjust it. They're all gonna do the job. Like I was shooting with Vlog on the Panasonic GH4, and yeah, I had like a simple just a Tiffin, my favorite Tiffin variable ND filter, and it was no problem.
So he's saying he's shooting at 400. I mean, you can shoot at 200, right, on the GH4, or no, because of the Vlog, because of the Vlog.
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, it limits you. Okay.
Yeah.
And in terms of any reviews on Kinefinity?
The new one, no. I mean, I had a chance to see it at NAB. I'll just tell you guys, it's like, if there was no other camera options out there other than, like, let's say the top of the line, like let's say Auray or something, it'd be an amazing low cost alternative. But at the end of the day, you know, when I talk to the guys here, you know, it's a Chinese company. They don't have very good, like in English when it comes to like the customer service. Like even there at NAB, there was nobody really to talk to that spoke English fluently, that I could ask them questions and things. And then when they were showing me stuff, it was all very still rough around the edges, is what
Prototype.
I'm saying. Yeah, it kind of feels more like a prototype camera than thing, even though it's not, because the codec that their thing is not supported natively by any editing application. So you're gonna shoot with their codec, and then you have to transcode that. So I mean, it's a big hassle. It's a big no-no for a lot of people. You want to be able to shoot something footage, put it in there, and right away be able to edit it. You can't do it with that. It's a weird codec, kind of. I don't know. I wasn't a fan of that when I was testing out the Kinemax, their older camera. Yeah, it's just, I don't know. It's just, there's some good things about it. Like at the end of the day, good image quality, and if you don't mind with those workarounds and those things, then I guess it's good. But keep in mind that you're probably going to go with that camera because you want something that matches, Red Epic or whatever, that kind of look, but for a lower budget, right? But the camera sells, really, to get the full camera working, it's like $9,000 with all the things you need for it to actually properly function. Well, you can get a camera with all the things that you need to function, like the Ursa Mini, for example, for like $6,000, and you can get that. And I think it's an even friendlier camera that has amazing dynamic range and all that stuff, but it's just an easier camera to work with, because in the Ursa Mini, whether it's the Pro or 4.6K versions, you have RAW, you have ProRes, you can edit right off a thing, or you even have RAW compressed, which is amazing. So that's the reason why I would say is, if there was no other options, yes, that would be a great camera to go and look into and just work with those little, little weird things they have, little workarounds with it. But if you want to skip all that and save yourself some money, just go with the Ursa Mini.
Okay, and here from Samantha Duran, can I film without a microphone? So if you're thinking about shooting using the in-camera microphone, then don't do that.
Yeah, if you want to get good audio, if you do not care about audio, now you can film.
Unless it's just a reference audio.
Yeah, but if you care about having good audio, you always need microphone, and never even the microphone like mounted on the camera. I mean, if you're doing vlogging or something.
What about the GH5? Now it's got the module.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm saying get a camera or an adapter for your camera where you can plug in like proper XLR cables, like this mic that we have here, that's balanced, that provides power to your microphones, all that stuff. So you do need to invest. If you want good audio in your camera, you need to invest in that.
Now we have, it's a big subject. So on our website, amatosfilms.com, there's a lot of information. Just search. There's a search box there. You can get all these articles we have about different setups. And some of them are not really like very expensive, but and you can get good quality. But the main thing is, I guess, especially for films, right, documentaries, you want to get audio, you want to have directional microphone, right, and you want to get it as close to the to the person as you can, without getting it into the frame. Those are the most important things. And then there are all kinds of microphones and recorders you can use. So there's more information on our website, but those are like the two things you just want to be aware of. For sure, don't use the in-camera microphone because it's horrible. Never. All right, guys. So I think that's a wrap. Okay. So thank you for joining us. And
next week, for sure, we're gonna be, like I said, going through more of the submissions you guys sent. But if you have some other people are interested showing off their work, just want to promote yourself, or if you're asking for our opinion or whatever, again, all the links and info about where you can submit the work is in the description of the video.
Another thing maybe is if you have ideas for what do you want us to talk about,
exactly,
for the main topic of our Sunday show, then let us know, right?
Yeah, or maybe there's like some guest, somebody you think might be interesting to bring on the show. Again, let us know. We'll try to get them to be on the show and things like that, right?
As long as it's not Brad Pitt or people of that caliber. But
it might be a little difficult to getting somebody like that, yeah.
But we can try to get other indie filmmakers on the show.
So. Anyways, it was fun. See you guys next week.
See you. Have a good Sunday.
Bye. Bye.